Meantime, in Washington, the blame game rages on.
So when you were on the jihad against Americans' access to health care, shutting down the parks wasn't a problem. Shutting down NIH wasn't a problem.
The president basically called us all down there to tell us he's not interested in negotiating. It was essentially a negotiation about not negotiating.
We're understanding, we're sympathetic to our plight, but it's still frustrated by the overall concern that it just seems like it's really a political gain for my job at stake.
Joining me now, Bernard Whitman, former pollster for President Clinton and a Democratic strategist. And on the Republican side, Brad Blakeman, former Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
All right. So, Bernard, there's a lot of warnings coming out from the president. Yesterday, you had the meeting with the top leaders from both parties. Was anything accomplished?
Unfortunately not. And, you know, Gretchen, I think we should get real. What we're facing is a hostile takeover, first of the House Republican Conference, now of the entire federal government, by a small band of Tea Party economic terrorists. And the reason why I call them economic terrorists, and I don't believe the president should negotiate, is because they are indiscriminately threatening to harm tens of millions of people without any regard for what the impact would be.
Wait a minute. Economic terrorists?
That's right. They are wielding economic terrorism indiscriminately against tens of millions of people. That's exactly what's going on here.
Brad, you got to get in on this.
Look, Bernard, you should be ashamed of yourself. The kind of rhetoric that's coming out of the Democrats, using the word terrorism, using the word jihad by a Democratic congressman on the floor of the House, is beyond the pale. Look, you're not going to be able to negotiate yourself out of this using that kind of rhetoric. And it's shameful for the president of the United States to have a meeting with the titans of Wall Street before he meets with the leaders of Congress and basically gives them marching orders to cause the American people and the markets pain. The fact that they weren't caused enough pain in the shutdown and now looming with a debt ceiling, the president put the message out, caused the American people pain. Closing the parks. This is a shameful act, not only by the president, but of Democrats. And if you want to bring the country together, this isn't the way to do it.
Well, Bernard, does Brad have a point? These economic warnings that the president gave yesterday, is that because the markets really have remained stable? I mean, is there any truth to the fact that Democrats actually want the market to maybe not do so well?
That is a horribly disgusting lie, to be honest. The facts are the facts. The market's down a couple hundred points. Everybody agrees that if the federal government shutdown lasts for 3 or 4 weeks, the fourth quarter economic growth will be cut in half to about
down 100 points right now. We just saw a live shot of it. Down 100 points.
And if the shutdown lasts for 4 weeks, we'll go back into recession. But you know what? Here's where I think that there actually is a path forward. And this is not about negotiation. It's about getting our government to function again. And what I would propose is the following. I think the House should pass a clean CR. The votes are there if Boehner let it come up for a vote. And I think that the Democratic Senate should consider a House-passed bill that would repeal the medical excise tax. That would pass because there are enough Democrats support that.
Right.
And so I ultimately think that is the path forward. Now, we'd obviously have to then figure out how to make up that $30 billion shortfall.
Brad,
but then the government would be open and we can come together and negotiate.
Brad, do you see that as a compromise? Because that exact idea has actually been floated by some Republicans in the House.
Well, if the president just didn't have a photo op yesterday with leaders of Congress and offered to compromise, Bernard's plan might have actually been one that would have worked on the CR. But here's the problem. As days go by, we're inching up against October 17th, which is the deadline for the debt ceiling. And now I believe that it's probably less likely to get a deal on the CR as we get closer to the debt ceiling, which means there's going to have to be a global settlement now on the CR as well as the debt ceiling. Well, that's where the problem lies.
That's a very insightful point because, Bernard, do Republicans now have leverage? Because now they can start talking about entitlements and they can start talking about sequester and all these other things that they want leading up to the debt ceiling discussion.
They have as much leverage as a terrorist wants to yield. If they are seriously thinking of jeopardizing the full faith and credit of the United States of America to push their own minority view policy positions, that is abhorrent in my mind.
Wait a second, Bernard.
That is. It's absolutely abhorrent.
Hold it right there. Was Barack Obama, senator in 2006, a terrorist when he voted no to raising the debt ceiling? The president of the United States, as a senator, voted not to raise the debt ceiling. Was he a terrorist?
Was the debt ceiling raised? Yes, it was raised. Because ultimately, it was raised.
Not to do it.
It's always dicey when you break out the language like terrorist and jihad in my mind. But we have a fair and balanced debate here. Bernard and Brad, both B guys with A status. Great to see you today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you.